Happy Valentine's month, everybody. I'm the Sliders Review, and I'm here today to share with you some of my favorite Valentine's Day episodes from TV shows or even movies. Not everything is all lovey-dovey. Sometimes Valentine's Days deal with heartache and everything. So, some episodes will be romantic and lovey-dovey, while others will be very sad and heart-wrenching and stuff. But love is love. It doesn't always come with smiles and giggles and glee. So, I'm here today to talk to you about Valentine, the movie, the rundown review. Not to be mistaken with My Bloody Valentine, but actually Valentine. This is a slasher slash, romantic Valentine's Day type movie. Originally, I was going to do this for Halloween, and I was getting ready to do it, but I'm all like, you know what? It has more of since it has the name Valentine's in it, there's a Cupid slasher in there, and it has more of a romantic feel and less of a slasher feel. I might as well say this is Valentine's Day. So now here we go. This movie came out in 2001, and it was directed by Jamie Blanks. He is the director who did the Urban Legend movie. See, back when Scream reinvented the genre, a bunch of copycat movies came out. Urban Legend, I know what they did last summer, and of course, Valentine. Some were more successful and others weren't. This movie is tricky because it's an okay movie. It's an okay slasher slash Valentine's Day type movie. But it is not great. It borderlines between okay, passable, and good. You know what I'm saying? The only problem with is that it feels more like I Know What You Did Last Summer, which is a slow burn drama type movie with little slashers, little gore type stuff. But the thing about I Know What You Did Last Summer is it was more suspenseful. This movie lacks suspense big time. Also, one of the things, it could have been, this movie could have rivaled Scream if done properly and stuff. It really could have. It had a really good backstory. It had some very likable characters. It had a cool slasher killer costume design. But the problem is it wasn't that much killings, and when the killer did kill, it made sense to kill the main cast, but then he started killing random people. And that was just kind of towards the end. And they only did that because they needed a body count. Because this movie lacked a lot of killing, it lacked a lot of blood, it lacked a lot of gore. And so because of that, it kind of falls flat, you know? And also, at the end, the big climactic thing, it's not that climactic because it's not that suspenseful. There's no huge chase. There's nothing to make you really oh, okay, well, that's convenient. You know what I'm saying? All the people just disappeared from the party, and then now only the main characters that are still alive are wandering the house. So it's kind of it wasn't written strongly enough. And also one of the things that was kind of irritating is technically the killer could be anybody, but we know for a fact the name of the killer and what he looked like in the flashbacks. But then 13 years pass and he's no longer a teenager, he's an adult. So it's kind of what does he look like? And so there's only three main male characters in this movie. One is a cop who we know for sure isn't him because he's much older. And then there's the other two. And you could probably guess who the killer is, especially after the success of the show he was on. And the way the killer dresses is a very similar way he dressed in a TV show. So you kind of knew who it was. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just it's kind of the whole Billy Loomis thing. You know who the killer is. But then the thing about Billy Loomis is that they threw you for a loop towards the end. Because when Billy was in jail, the killer kept calling and the killer kept trying to kill folks. When Billy was at the party, he was stabbed and then over and over. And then you kind of like, oh, maybe he's not the killer, only for him to be the killer. And we find out that there are two killers. This movie tries to do that, but fails kind of, because it's kind of like they try to trick you by thinking this person's the killer, but then the way that person like was moving kind of seemed kind of funny, and then how they was laying on the floor was even kind of funnier. And then the big reveal is like, oh, okay, that person is not the killer, this other person is. Because the thing about the killer, he has a distinct um thing that happens to him. He has a bloody nose. It constantly like drips and stuff. His nose is constantly hemorrhaging and stuff. So it's kind of like when we see towards the very, very, very end shot of the movie, we're like, oh, okay, that dude really is the killer and stuff. Now, ironically, this movie is loosely based off a novel. I had no idea. Many people have said that the novel is way better than the movie. From what I have read, yeah, it seems that way. And stuff. Even the main character of Jill does not even appear in like the movie, so that's kind of weird and stuff. And so, like, yeah, I had no idea this was even based off a novel. I remember this came out either when I was my last year of high school or first year of college. I remember owning this in college and buying it on VHS and then later on DVD. Now, this movie has been brought out on Blu-ray. The original DVD cover is this, the one I prefer. The Blu-ray cover is different, a little more suspenseful and all this other stuff. So they're trying to kind of like trick people into thinking, oh, this movie is like super amazingly great. But then you watch it and it's like, it's just okay. Now, Jennifer Love Hewitt was actually approached for this movie, but the role went to somebody else. I'm kind of glad she didn't take it, only because she was in I Know What You Did Last Summer, so that would have been kind of weird, you know what I'm saying? But yeah. But the dude who directed this movie, I like Urban Legend. Problem is, he did not write this movie. About 4 or 5 other people wrote it. That's too many people. So yeah. Now, like I said, it is a slow burn throughout the entire middle of like the only really good parts is the beginning and the very end. The entire middle is just drama, romantic stuff. And so it kind of makes you like lose interest a little bit, but it does make you care for the characters a bit more. So when bad stuff starts to happen, um, you know. And one thing that's really cool about this movie is that the message the killer sends. Scream had the whole phone calls thing. I Know What You Did Last Summer had like the random notes. And so this dude, he sends out very lavish, beautiful Valentine Day cards. My God, they are amazing. This is something you might be able to find in the store, but if you do, it'll cost you anywhere between $10 to $20. That's how good looking these cards are. And these cards look normal at first and very loving until you pull a secret compartment and it's very gruesome. I like that. That's kind of cool. It's a nice trickery of the brain and stuff. And it really makes you fearful for these characters. This is your typical 80s type slasher. Somebody is out for revenge. That is one problem a lot of critics had. This movie received negative reviews and has later been panned, but it is slowly gaining an audience and stuff. And especially mostly now because there's not that many slasher movies out. And so people kind of understood what the writers were going for. It just wasn't enough stuff to sink your teeth in, especially when the middle is kind of just like a regular love story type thing. And basically, that's kind of what it is. This is like a slasher slash romance movie. Katherine Heigl, who I was a huge fan of back in the day, and still kind of am, is like, I was really, really a huge fan because of Wish Upon a Star. I found out when she was in this movie, she was in the very beginning. I was very thrilled and happy, but then I was pissed to see she was the first person killed. She has later, after the movie came out, she has criticized this movie about how she does not like it. But then again, she criticizes everything she's in, so like no shocker there. So the cast of this movie. Marley Shelton, she plays Kate. She is one of our main characters. Now, Kate is our main character. Like I said before, she's very sensible, she's very sweet, she's very nice, she's very compassionate. She's the type of person you just like love in this movie. And the actress who plays her to a T. Denise Richards, she plays Paige. And Paige is more of like a vixen type character. She dresses sexy. All the men want her. But even though all the men want her, she's not easy. She just doesn't go around sleeping around. And when you try to mess with her, she gets like very irritated and stuff by that. So she's like the extremely hot girl who doesn't like, who you assume would put out, but doesn't. So I like that little twist on the aspect, especially because she was coming off of, um, yeah, what's that movie called? Where she was like an accomplice with Nev Campbell in that movie, Wild Things. Jessica Capsaw, Jessica Capsaw, she plays Dorothy. Dorothy is a very sweet woman, but she has a bit of like an attitude. It comes from her feeling neglected. She was the big girl of the group and slightly kind of still is. And she feels that everybody looks at her as just like the fat, boring girl. Nobody never hits on her, nobody never pays attention to her. And she has all these friends that are like super skinny and people just like throw themselves at. I love the fact that she really lets it all out about how she feels. That was some good drama. She like when she thinks that the killer is gonna come after her, like she knows for a fact he is super pissed at her because of what happened in the flashbacks. And so like when the other girls are like, oh no, that's not true. And she's all like, look, I was the fat one and everything. And they're all like, you was plump. And then she lets them have it out. She's all like, she's like, Lily was the fun one and Paige is the sexy one. And like, Kate is the nice one. And I was the fat, boring one. And she's all like, y'all have no idea like how I felt and all this other stuff because you never asked and you don't know what I've gone through and blah, blah, blah. And she's all like, screw all y'all. I'm like, whoa, dude. She really let them have that. That was a good dramatic moment and stuff. And it's nice to hear that from people, especially who are larger, because you never really truly know how they feel, but you see the depression at times on their face, especially when it comes to dating. However, a lot of that has changed now, and more people have been more accepting of bigger people and body positivity, but there's still those who are like, well, I prefer a skinny woman than I do a big woman and stuff like that. And so, like, it was really nice to see that. And her character is super rich. And so it's kind of like she's an attractive woman. She's rich. She's 30 something years old, but she still lives at home with her dad. But they live in a mansion. So who would want to move out of that? But you see the pain constantly on her face in this movie. Her dad neglects her. Her dad is a much older man with a girlfriend that's about the same age as her. And he picks the girlfriend over her. And so that really hurts her. Then she dates a dude named Campbell. And Campbell's this like really good looking dude, and she's really happy to have him. She loves talking about him. About like, ah, look what I got. I'm a big girl, but I got this good looking man. But then he's shady and stuff. He's only using her for her money because he made a bunch of bad investments. Then she sees his ex-wife, who who is super rich as well, and he used her for the money. And it just makes her feel crappy, especially for her own birthday party towards the end of the movie. Now, the other Jessica in the movie, Jessica um, Coffinell, I'm not sure that's how you pronounce her name. She is the fun, goofy one in the group. She's also very sarcastically rude. Like, she's dating a dude who's an art student or artist and everything, and he ends up like messing around, cheating on her, so that irritates her. For the most part, she is a nice girl. She's very lovable. Like that's every character she plays, a very lovable type person. But she's not in the movie very long, which really irritated me because I remember I saw her in Urban Legend Final Cut, and she was barely in that too. But she's just this fun, lovable person that like you just can't help but to love. But then she gets a message from the killer. She gets a bunch of chocolates. When she bites into them, she sees that there are maggots in there. She is totally grossed out and everything. And so, like, she ends up dying second. And she ends up dying in a very interesting way. Now, her death was a bit suspenseful because of all the stuff that was going around her. And but she's taken out so early in the movie, and people don't realize she's gone because, of course, she told people, oh, she's going on a trip out of town or out of country on a plane and stuff. So when people like, it's funny because like people don't bother to call her, but of course she's out of town and they don't text her or nothing like that. But that's around cell phones wasn't all that important around that time. So it's kind of like it makes sense for people not to worry about her because they assume she was out of town. Catherine Heigl, she plays Shelley. Now, her character is the very first person taken out within the first couple of minutes of the movie. It sets her up at the beginning of the movie where she's on a date with a guy and she's not really thrilled about him because he doesn't want to pay for, like, her meal and stuff like that. And he's being one of those cheapo type dudes. And so, like, he's constantly wanting to kiss and all this other stuff. She's all like, oh my God. And so she's just like, she pays for herself. She leaves and she's like a med student because she's still in college. Actually, they're probably not in their 30s. They're probably in their mid 20s and stuff. Now that I think about it, and especially since she's well, then you're a med student, you're probably in college a little bit longer, but who knows? Anyway, so they're in their mid 20s, and so like not 30s, my bad. And so like she's cutting open her cadaver, and all of a sudden some strange stuff starts happening. She gets the message from the killer, which is a very beautiful Valentine's Day card, and then the killer shows up. And the killer, I'll get into him a little bit later, what he looks like and stuff. So he chases her all around the place. She has a cool hiding spot, but he ends up getting her anyways. And so yeah, she is the first one to die. Now our killer, now, with the Kate character, she dates a dude named Adam Carr. On and off. They've been broken up on and off because he has a drinking problem, but they really care for one another. So basically, it's just they go like he barely shows up in the movie, and stuff, and so like he is played by David Boreas, who played Angel on Buffy and of course the Angel show, and so like he's you know how he looks. So he's this big, muscular, hunky looking dude, and so he's barely even in the movie and stuff, and he has like huge feelings for her, and she has them for him. But when she finds out he's drinking again, it's a rocky relationship. Jeremy Milton. He was just this nerdy dude in high school back in like the 80s. They went to a 1988 dance. And so like I was just a kid around that time. I think Ninja Turtles came out around that time. And so like they're at their dance and he's super nerdy. Nobody likes him. He's asking all our main characters to dance. All of them say no in a very rude way, except for two. Kate, she tells him, maybe later, so that's the one he has the hugest crush on, Kate, um, which is supposed to be Jill in the book. And then, so Dorothy, she says yes, but they don't just dance. They're behind the bleachers making out. And then all the bullies come in, and the bullies are making fun of Dorothy, calling her like a pig and a cow, and talking about how she's kissing on the nerd and stuff like that. So she gets so upset. She's all like, Jeremy's a perv and everything. And they're all like, did he take advantage of you? And she's like, yeah, he like jumped me and everything. And then they say the rudest thing. They're all like, nerd jump buffalo or something like that. So then they beat the snot out of him. They ripped all his clothes off. That way he's just in his underwear. And they kick him, they punch him and everything. And so blood is dripping down from his nose. That's his identifier. And so because of that like cruel thing, he now wants revenge. Well, it turns out his life went down the crapper after that. He started like hanging around some bad people, started being in and out of like juvie. He went to military school where he was forced to go into. He got kicked out of that. And then it was revealed that he murdered his parents. He burnt their house and stuff down. And so the remaining girls that are left, they're like, crap, dude, he's really pissed at us and gonna come after us because of what happened. But then they don't understand why he's so mad because it was assault. Until Dorothy tells the truth and told them how it wasn't assault. She just felt self-conscious and stuff and made all that stuff up. So that's when that huge like part where she like reads all of them talking about how like nobody likes her and all this other stuff. So it's like the dude, he like you get it, he has reason for like revenge, but he don't have to go down the murderous route. You know what I'm saying? Now the killer dresses in a Cupid's mask and a black outfit, black shirt, pants, and a long coat. The look is very nice. I love the look. Like the mask is very ominous in the way it just stares at you, and it's something you recognize, a Cupid churros like face, and it's just really cool looking. And so the killer's main weapon is a butcher knife, but he does change it up twice in this movie to a giant drill. That was a pretty cool killing scene with the Page character, and also a bow and arrow for the Lily character, which, it makes sense to him to have a bow and arrow because he is Cupid. But, it's kind of like you want your killer to stay to their own weapon and not change it up. It would have been cooler if the main weapon was probably like a bow and arrow, but in a slasher movie, when you want to get the up close kill, that wouldn't make no sense. So I get that. Maybe a teeny tiny crossbow, but hey, who knows? You know what I'm saying? And so it's interesting because it's like, in the book, it was about like the girl pulled like a prank on him, and so he grows up to want her. And that's kind of like how this thing is. It's not a prank so much, but it was something cruel that happened to him, and he really wants Kate out of all of them, like to date and love. That's his favorite one, only because she was nice enough to say maybe later she'll dance with him. And so he's extremely pissed at Dorothy, and the other ones are just because they was rude to him at the party. And so it's kind of like, it's interesting because, when these women grew up 13 years later, they have the hardest time finding a guy. Nobody really wants them. They find guys that are just kind of like, you know what I'm saying? They do speed dating, they do this, they do that, and nothing like seems to work out for them. And whenever they do find somebody, it's a terrible person. So it's kind of like I said, it's an okay slasher romantic type movie. It can go either way, horror or Valentine's Day. Like it should have been more. See, the cast is so small. It's kind of like you can't kill off your main characters that fast. So towards the end, it just killed off like random people. But the people they was killing off was kind of like, one woman got killed because she witnessed another murder, but then it's just kind of like, why is he over here killing all these other people? That makes absolutely no sense. So if the story was stronger, if they had more suspense, if they had more blood and gore, and better kills, I think this could have rivaled Scream if it would have had like, if they would have sat down and really focused on the story and not have so many writers. When there's so many writers, you're in for it for a movie. Like for the most part, Scream just had one defining writer, maybe like a second to clean some stuff up. But other than that, you have to be coherent, precise, and you have to give the audience what they want. And you can't have a bunch of filler, and that's the problem with the middle part of the second act of the movie. It was nothing but just romantic drama filler. I mean, it made you like the characters a bit more, but only certain ones. Like you feel for Dorothy, even though she did a terrible thing, but you get why she did what she did because she felt like she was embarrassed. You know what I'm saying? Like people keep making fun of her because of her weight. So you feel for Dorothy, you feel for Paige, and you feel for Kate. Lily, not so much because she's not really in the movie that much, and she is kind of rude when she is. And then you feel nothing for Shelly because she was just in the beginning of the movie who gets taken out. And so, like, yeah. But it's kind of like, and in the climactic ending should have been so much more climactic than that. Like you start to feel it a little bit when like Kate is walking through the house with the gun on this completely empty house and the power went out. But then it's just kind of like, well, where all the people at the party go and stuff. And how come nobody's hearing nobody get killed? And it's like, then there's a big like switcheroo. And I remember my one friend, when I showed the movie to them, they still think that Dorothy was like the killer. And she's not. Because if you see the very ending of the movie and you see this blood dripping down this dude's nose, then you know who the killer is. And all he did was, because when you also look at Dorothy, she has a big bruise on her head because he knocked her out and then put the costume on her. Now, wasn't that romantic? or depressing, depending on what kind of video I just talked about. Okay, well, happy Valentine's Day, everybody. And bye.